My introduction to the work, like I said, was back in junior high. When we have ice in the South, we can't drive. So we're trapped at home, no TV, nothing going on. And my mom gave me a book about Edgar Cayce. And so that was my introduction. So years later, as a young adult, in the bookstore, just noticing Edgar Cayce books, different topics that caught my attention. And I was given a gift certificate on one of my birthdays, and I went straight to the bookstore and bought several paperback books about Edgar Cayce. And I remember my husband and I, we were in our first home, and that was in 97. And I had the little postcard that comes in those paperback books, and you can write off for information. And I requested information about dreams and reincarnation. Once I got the information about dreams and reincarnation, of course, that just leads you to everything else. So every aspect of the Edgar Cayce readings have touched my life. You know, the spiritual information, the health information, everybody who meets me, talks to me about the things that I teach and the holistic services that I provide. You're always going to hear the question, do you know who Edgar Cayce was? You know, the father of holistic medicine. And so I am always introducing people to Edgar Cayce, and I mentioned the A.R.E. I continue to this day with holistic work and introducing people to all the various aspects. And I love, at the last board meeting, meeting other board members and hearing about different books and running over to the bookstore and find it and start looking at other remedies that I had not come across before. So still always learning and growing and sharing the information, and just looking forward to assisting with my particular skill set and anything else that the organization needs from me.
Hello, my name is Marianne Splenda, and I'm currently the Vice Chair of the A.R.E. Board of Trustees. I live in Berkeley, California, and it's my honor to serve the A.R.E., not only on the board, but as well as in other capacities. For my story goes back to a time in high school. I was in a Sunday school class with a group of people, and I suddenly asked the question, who am I? It was a really deep searching on my part. It sort of stunned the group leaders and the rest of the people in the group. And unfortunately, their background really could not give me any framework or answers, at least none that would satisfy me at that time. But it really was an awareness to me that I was a seeker looking for answers, and it would be with me for the rest of my life. But I went on with my life, got an education, got married, had kids. And then one day I found I was getting sick, sicker and sicker and sicker. My nose, ear, throat doctor was very concerned because she thought I might get heart disease or even die. So I did reach out to the universe, and I asked for help. And a young girl came to the house to help me. And before she left, she handed me a book. It's called There is a River. That book was like a tall, cold glass of water in a desert to me. It was so refreshing. But of course it wouldn't last. I needed more. And so began my search locally to find out where could I find out more about the Edgar Cayce groups, materials, what could I find? And my husband found that there was a Search for God study group in our city. And I joined it. And boy, what a wonderful group of people that was. We met for years, and we were all seekers, all eager to find answers. Not the same questions, not the same answers, but it was a wonderful support system to me that I've carried on through my life. It was back in 1980. By 1985, I was the hostess of that group. I had to leave it for a few years, but then take it back on, and I'm currently with the Search for God study group with the Cayce material, going step by step, little bit by little bit, seeking and finding answers, applying the information to my life. That I find that one of those answers is to be of service. And so I began my service-oriented career with the A.R.E. And I will say this, do you want happiness? Then be of service, either to one person, two, more, in little ways or big ways. But the path to happiness is really being of service to other people. So if there was some word I would like to leave with other people, it is find a way to serve. And I would like to share actually the affirmation that's in A Search for God, the chapter on faith. And it goes like this. Create a pure heart in me, O God. Open thou my heart to the faith thou hast implanted to all that seek thy face. Help thou mine unbelief in my God, in my neighbor, in myself. These are words I live by on a daily basis, along with the words to let me be a channel of blessings to those I meet day by day. I thank you for this opportunity to serve you. I invite you to come serve with us in whatever manner that is, and really hope that we will meet on the A.R.E. campus in some soon date to come. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Doug Knueven, and I've been a member of the A.R.E. and a member of my local Pittsburgh area team since the mid-1990s. I've been on the board of trustees since 2017, and I've been chair for about the last year. And I have to tell you that the thing that has really spoken to me about the Edgar Cayce readings is the deep spiritual guidance. I mean, if it weren't for the Edgar Cayce readings, my life would have much less meaning than it does. And of course, we have to realize that the organization would not exist without the women of the work, from Gertrude Cayce to Gladys Davis and other women. They were crucial to the early development of the A.R.E. And from my experience on my local team and the Board of Trustees, I have to tell you that today's women of the work are courageous leaders. From my wife, who introduced me to the A.R.E. and preceded me on the board, to all of the trustees that I've worked with of the feminine persuasion, I just want to tell each of them that it has been an honor to serve with you.
Frankly, what really means a lot to me is very simply Edgar Cayce's statement, make the world a better place because you lived. That's what drew me to the Cayce work, and it's the spiritual work that first captured my attention. In my maternal line, interpreting dreams and getting information that way, spiritually, using what we call gifts of spirit, that was something that I grew up with, but I did not see anything like that in the environment around me outside of my family. And so it was as though I didn't really feel whole until once I graduated law school and I could read things other than law books. I found the Cayce material and I started reading There Is a River. And once I read it, There Is a River, that just opened the door and the dam burst, so to speak. And so that's what really drew me to the Cayce work. And I read everything I could get my hands on. I literally raised my children from the materials, the Cayce work, all the way through health, holistic health, and just all the material, but starting with the spiritual, because that's what helped made me feel whole again. I've had a lot of people over the years come to me and they say, well, what's my purpose in life? Or I don't feel, why am I here? These really big questions, profound questions. And yet it's so simple and profound at the same time when Cayce said, make the world, paraphrasing, a better place because you lived in it. That really says it all. Cayce has other material about being of service. And I work with mental health professionals who talk about the way to get somebody out of depression, unless it's a chemical depression, but to get them out is to stop focusing on themselves, to focus about outside of themselves, doing for other people, whatever. This has helped. Cayce's materials have helped many people who are looking for their place in this life, reasons for their existence. And it seems so simple, and yet it is both profound, as I said, at the same time. And then once one experiences the Cayce material and the Cayce people, what I call Cayce people that come to the workshops, that really did it. Because when I met like-minded people at the conference center attending a conference, that really opens up the world. And it's a place where you can feel it's okay being unique, where you can feel acceptance, where you learn to truly appreciate others. So I say a combination of reading the materials and then attending the conferences. And it goes without saying, the spa and the treatments at the spa, that adds to mind, body, and spirit, as the Greeks used to say. That really helps everyone, I think, heal. So my experience is there is something in the Cayce materials and at the A.R.E. and the other organizations, there is something for everyone, no matter what they're looking for.
My name is Kevin Reger. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been a Board of Trustees member since 2021, and I've been a volunteer on the local level since 1979. I was originally drawn to the Cayce work because of the spirituality teachings, and I joined a weekly study group very shortly after that. So I've been a Search for God member in a study group since 1978. Meditation and the community of the study groups has made a huge difference in my life. And that's really what drew me to do volunteer work. I wanted to establish an Edgar Cayce community in the Milwaukee area, and I worked very hard since the 70s to do that. One of the ways we were able to do that was to have an annual weekend retreat, and we would bring in speakers from the A.R.E. year after year after year. It's still going strong, and it's been 44 years already. And, right from the start, women have been so important with the Cayce work and with our retreats. I remember our very first retreat had Meredith Puryear. That was followed up by Judith Stevens, Mary Thurston, Dr. Gladys McGarry, Lynn Sparrow Christie. There's just been so many women through the years, and they continue on even to this day. I'm just really inspired by how much the Cayce work means to them as well as myself. I guess I'm just really glad that we have had this opportunity to continue to share the work all these years later. And it inspires me to know that I've been involved in the work for over 40 years. And I believe that we're going to be moving forward for at least the next 40 years, maybe the next 100, because this work is so important on a personal level, on a health level, on a community level. The world is hungry for this information, and I'm just so glad that the A.R.E. is here to help provide it.
Hello, I'm Verdella Dinwiddie, and this is my 5th year as a trustee for the A.R.E. organizations. I live in Alexandria, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., and I've been involved in A.R.E. since the mid-1980s. Spurred by my mother's long illness and death and my own deepening interest in learning more about the veil between life and death. What speaks to me most about the work of A.R.E. is spirituality. Through conferences and coursework at Atlantic University and other endeavors, I've learned that spirituality is our root, our purpose, and our destiny. And with this understanding, I was able to understand more about the connections between what I believe internally and what I experience or what I build for myself in the external world. Between striving for just personal and material success and learning to apply the lessons that I've learned with wisdom gained from spirit to benefit myself and others in a deeper way. And between expressing the personal me and embracing and expressing the creative forces, that force that many of us call God, through me. And I embrace my spirituality in every way, through meditation or just thoughtful recitation of the Lord's Prayer, which the readings credit with opening up the chakra systems and connecting our minds and souls. Through participation regularly in my Search for God study group, or spiritual retreats where I explore with others how to best facilitate soul growth and spiritual development. In fact, in everything that I do and everyone that I meet. Now, I don't always achieve the success that I would like, but I'm ready to start again the next day, trying to be more spiritual in every way. I was drawn to serve as a trustee for the A.R.E. in order to give back to this organization that has given so much to me, give back in a way that could actually touch members, staff, volunteers, as well as other spiritual seekers who are looking for a deeper path. In the late 1990s, I was invited to apply to become a trustee based on my background and interests. Spirit guided me to say yes. And so I served on the board from the late 90s through the early 2000s. In 2018, I was invited to serve again, and I said yes, because I believe that during these times, our nation and our world face turmoil and devastation, and that the Cayce readings and other spiritual groundswells help to steady the world and to steady each of us. In fact, I believe that everyone who's involved in A.R.E. at this time are part of a larger spiritual transformation that is taking place in the world. Very positive transformation, even in the midst of things that don't seem to be so positive. My wish for each of you, staff, members, and seekers, is that you see A.R.E. as a lighthouse and your spiritual teachings as guideposts. And you survey your surroundings in life's choppy waters and find your own personal path. Yes, the waters of life can be very choppy, cold, and sometimes brutal, but trust and you will be guided into safer pathways and calmer waterways. And when you find that you've reached that shore that we sometimes call death, please know that it's just an oasis. It's just a place for rest and rejuvenation. And that when you have completed your respite period, you will be again ready to dive into the deeper waters, into another of those journeys that we call physical life. And my hope is that you will each have an A.R.E., another lighthouse to guide you through those times. And my other hope is that you realize at a deeper level at some point that the real life is in spirit, not in the flesh. For as the Cayce readings say, spirit is the life, mind is the builder, and the physical is the result.
Good afternoon. My name is A.R.E. Strickland, and I'm currently a board member at A.R.E. This is actually my second time on the board. I was a board member from about 2009 to 2017, I think, and then I came back on and am scheduled to go off, I think, in 2024. What drew me to A.R.E. 40 some years ago was a person having given me a copy of There's a River, which very much resonated with me, particularly the philosophy section, which I would commend to anyone who hasn't read it. The foundational principle of oneness and the divinity of all creation is something that I read, and it has stuck with me ever since and has seen me through good times and bad. And that's sort of a foundational principle of the Cayce material, is the oneness of all creation. I got involved in the board work by virtue of a friendship with Charles Thomas Cayce, and he approached me and asked me if I wouldn't consider being on the board. I was very humbled and honored by that, and so I did, at his suggestion, get on the board and have been involved ever since. And it has been a very enlightening experience to work with the various board members that I have gotten to know over the years, as well as the staff at A.R.E. This is Women's History Month, and so what I'd like to do here before I leave you is just give a shout out to all of the women of A.R.E., past, present, and future. Now, I think the men of A.R.E., particularly the historical figures, Edgar, Hugh Lynn, Charles Thomas, Morton Blumenthal, and many others, have certainly gotten the accolades and the press over the years. But I can assure you, if you have read the history of A.R.E., that the wind beneath their wings was from the women. The Gertrudes, Leslie, Gladys, and the current staff is a good example of women who really add to the quality of the organization. I'm thinking of Cassie and certainly Nicole, our new leader, and Zaire, Jackie, Dawn, Denise, and many others. And then the women out in the field, I want to give a particular shout out to them, because they're the ones that organize, oftentimes they're the ones, and run the Search for God groups, which spreads the message and raises the vibration generally, not just in this country, but throughout the world. So to all those women, I say, I very much appreciate you, and I bless you, and I behold Christ in you. And we could not be where we are without you. So my heartfelt thanks.
Hi, I'm Bernie on the Board of Trustees, and I'm here to talk about the women at the work, and the ones we have working on the Board of Trustees. I said they guide the organization with heart and passion for the A.R.E. and all the folks who keep it running.
Hello, my name is Georgiana Alonso. I'm in California, specifically Northern California near Sacramento. I'm currently on the Board of Trustees of the A.R.E., and this term started in 2017. I've been asked to answer a few questions just to sort of share what I had known and experienced during my lifetime association with the A.R.E. One of the things that comes up frequently is what topics speak to me the most when I read the material and I read books that people have written, and of course the readings themselves. And I would have to say that spirituality speaks to me the most. Although most of the topics in the readings, of course, have appealed to me over time with different emphases. If I have broken a leg, I've read the health material on that. If I've getting a new job, I've read the material on cooperation for that. Depends on, again, what it was that I was going into during that part of my life. So, but how did all this start? I sometimes get this question. At age 9, I read this book, and this book is called Ghost Hunter by Hans Hauser. In it, he describes a session with the psychic Eileen Garrett. I visited the library, as I often did, to see if there were any more books on Eileen, and the card catalog referred me to There Is a River. I checked it out. I read it in one day. And I read it with a profound sense with each passing page and chapter of this helps to explain what I already know. And I've been with the A.R.E. ever since. There Is a River, I believe, opened up my spiritual search by giving me a great head start. So no matter where I've been in my life or what spiritual traditions I've decided to study or practice, There's a River is always there. As far as how I've served the organizations over my lifetime, over my career, I could say I have worked with many local area teams in California over the years. I was in a Search for God group with the same group of people for over 25 years. And that Search for God material definitely is helpful and for just about everything one can encounter in life. When I was getting ready to retire, I submitted my name to the A.R.E. and said I was interested in serving on the Board of Trustees. Eventually, I was asked to interview, and I joined the board in 2009. That term ended in 2014. And now I'm on, as I said earlier, I'm on my second term with the board. So the final thing I would say right now is that there are, of course, quotes from the readings, affirmations from the Search for God materials, and other works in the readings. And one phrase that I'll share right now, which is something I've used often in my life, is keep on keeping on. I think that that is appropriate for all of us every day, no matter the bumps and the bruises and sometimes the roadblocks that we encounter in our daily lives. Knowing that we can keep on and we can do little things at a time, line upon line, precept upon precept, another affirmation from the readings, and knowing that we'll all get there eventually. So with that, I'll thank you for your attention, and we'll see you at some time at a conference. Bye-bye.